Hey everybody, this is Andre from the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the T-Mobile Revvl 5G and the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. Let's get started. So the T-Mobile Revvl 5G has a 6.53-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 395, and an aspect ratio of 19.5 by 9. The OnePlus Nord N10 5G has a 6.49-inch 90Hz IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 406, and an aspect ratio of 20 by 9. So they are very comparable. I would say the biggest difference is the Nord N10 5G has a little bit higher quality. Not only does it have a higher PPI, but it also does have a 90Hz display, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl 5G does not. A 90Hz display is going to make it a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer looking, so that is definitely in favor of the Nord N10 5G. On the other hand, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is ever so slightly bigger. A lot of this could potentially be from the bezels. As you can see here, the bezels on the T-Mobile Revvl 5G are a little bit thicker. Now, both of these phones have hole punch front-facing cameras that are 16 megapixels. I do like the camera setup of the Nord N10 5G a little bit better. If you can see really closely here, see how the clock is a little bit farther away from the camera hole on the N10 5G as opposed to the T-Mobile Revvl 5G where it's right up against there. It really is a tiny detail that's not really that big a deal. But at the same time, it is noticeable, especially to me. I pay a lot of attention to those little details. And I like the display on the Nord N10 5G a little bit better because it's more spread out and just looks a little bit cleaner. Now, both of these phones have 128 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. This is a great amount of storage. To put this into perspective, entry-level iPhones only have 64 gigabytes of internal storage and they don't have microSD card expansion. So these phones, which are a lot less expensive than an iPhone, have an advantage storage-wise over that phone. With 128 gigabytes, that's definitely a great amount of space. These days, the system is getting bigger and bigger. Not only that, but apps are also getting larger. So it's better to have more storage than you need, even if you don't think you're going to be using a lot. To give you an idea of what this looks like, right now the T-Mobile Revvl 5G has 19.28 gigabytes being used, only taking up 15% of the storage. The OnePlus Nord N10 5G has 25.46 gigabytes being used, taking up 20% of the storage. So you can see the bare minimum, even though it does take up a considerable amount of space, is really not that much in comparison to the total available storage. On the other hand, a lot of phones in this price range only have 64 gigabytes of storage, so you can imagine how much less space available you would have in that situation. Now, neither of these phones have wireless charging, unfortunately, but both of them do have a fingerprint scanner. This fingerprint scanner is located in the exact same spot on both of the phones, right in the back, near the top. Really comfortable, convenient spot for it. Not only that, but both of these phones have face unlock as well, which is a really nice feature to go along with the fingerprint scanner. Real quick, we're just going to test out how these fingerprint scanners perform, starting with the T-Mobile Revvl 5G. There we go, one more time. All right, no complaints there. That was really fast and responsive. Testing out the fingerprint scanner for the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. One more time. There we go. That second time, I intentionally placed my finger in a really weird spot to see how it would react, and it definitely handled that well. So overall, both of these fingerprint scanners are very fast and responsive. I would say they're pretty much the same, as most fingerprint scanners really are. There's usually not that much of a difference, except for the ones that have fingerprint scanners on the display instead. Sometimes those can be a little bit different, but again, not really. They're all fingerprint scanners and they're all pretty much the same. They work very well. So it's nice to have them as opposed to a phone like the iPhone that doesn't have a fingerprint scanner. Definitely an advantage from that. Now, taking a look at the camera setups of these two phones, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G has a 48 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. and a 5 megapixel macro camera. The OnePlus Nord N10 5G has a 64 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. So really, functionally, as far as you're going to notice feature-wise, these cameras are pretty much the same. The difference is the OnePlus Nord N10 5G has a depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode. So the portrait mode might be a little bit better on this phone. But other than that, they're pretty much the same. Video-wise, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is able to shoot 4K in both the front and rear cameras. And the OnePlus Nord N10 5G is able to shoot 4K in the rear camera and 1080p in the front. So not that much of a difference, but it is there. So these are photos taken with the normal camera modes of these two phones. This one is for the T-Mobile Revvl 5G. As you can see, the image is very crisp. The colors are well balanced. Really no complaints there. This one is for the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. Again, very crisp image and the colors are really well balanced. I have no complaints. When you look at them side by side, I would say they're very similar and it's really hard to tell which one is actually better. If you look really closely, you might notice that the T-Mobile Revvl 5G has a slightly brighter image, whereas the Nord N10 5G has a little bit sharper quality. But really trying to decide which one you want to use to take pictures, I really don't think the difference is so noticeable that there's a clear choice. Now, these are pictures taken with the macro cameras of these two phones. Again, I would say that they're very similar. But this time, I think the T-Mobile Revvl 5G does have a slightly better image. Now, of course, they are taken from slightly different angles, but you can tell the details on the picture taken by the T-Mobile Revvl 5G are not only a little bit brighter, but they're also a little bit sharper too. So that definitely is not going to be really that affected by the angle. And the other thing I did like about the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is that with the macro camera, there wasn't exactly a macro button. What you do is press the zoom button and hit macro mode. So you don't actually have to shove the phone right up against what you're trying to take a picture of. It actually zooms, sort of similar to a telephoto lens, but not really. Overall, I do like the macro camera on the T-Mobile Revvl 5G a little bit better. Now, these are images taken with the ultra-wide cameras of these two phones. The ultra-wide camera is a little bit better on the T-Mobile Revvl 5G, as you can see here. It's a little bit wider, and not only that, but the colors are still a little bit more strong, whereas they're a little bit dimmer on the ultra-wide camera of the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. Now, these are pictures taken with the front-facing cameras of the two phones. I would say in this situation, the Nord N10 5G does have an advantage here. The colors are a little bit better. Things look more natural, whereas with the T-Mobile Revvl 5G, the colors are still pretty good, but the shadows are a little bit too much, I would say. So again, both of them are really great, but in this situation, I would say the OnePlus Nord N10 5G does have a little bit of an advantage here. Now, in terms of the overall question of which one has a better camera, I think it's too close for there to really be a clear answer. Really, you could get used to either of these cameras and take great pictures. So in terms of my constructive analysis of the two, I would say that either of them are great for pictures. If you're looking for a phone that takes pictures on a professional level that you could use for something like professional social media or a website, or even something like shooting videos or streaming, then either of these phones are going to work equally well. And I would say that they are above average in terms of their price range. Now, internally, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 765 processor. On Geekbench 5, it came back with a single-core score of 624 and a multi-core score of 1944. The OnePlus Nord N10 5G is getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695G processor. This one came back with a single-core score of 609 and a multi-core score of 1832. So not a big difference, but definitely you can tell between these two, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is going to be a little bit faster. To give you an idea of what this speed comparison looks like, I'm going to give you a little demonstration. We're going to start by opening Google Chrome. As you can see there, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G definitely opened a little bit faster. Let's try a web page. So that time the OnePlus Nord N10 5G opened a little bit faster. So you can really see there's not really a whole lot of a difference in performance. Their numbers on Geekbench are really close. They're basically going to be the same processing wise. I don't think one is going to be able to handle something complicated like a game or video editing software or anything like that any better than the other one. I think they're both on par with each other. So really for comparison purposes, I would consider them about the same. Now battery wise, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G has a 4500 milliamp hour battery and the OnePlus Nord N10 5G has a 4300 milliamp hour battery. So again, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is going to have a little bit of an edge here. Not really a whole lot. Honestly, not enough for me to even say there's much of a difference at all. The T-Mobile Revvl 5G is going to get a little bit more life per charge as well as more longevity, but really both of them have pretty good batteries. Now in conclusion, which one of these devices is better? I do think they are a little bit too close for any one of their specs to be a deciding factor. I think that overall, the camera of the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is just a tiny bit better than the camera of the OnePlus Nord N10 5G, but they're both so comparable that it's practically interchangeable. As far as the battery goes, again, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G has a better battery, so there's that. But as far as the display goes, I do think the OnePlus Nord N10 5G has a better display. But on the other hand, the T-Mobile Revvl 5G is a little bit faster. They both have the same amount of storage and really their specs are so comparable that it comes down to which one you can get the best deal on. And for that, if you want to know some more about the pricing and availability of the devices, definitely check the link in the description because that's going to have all of that. And those stats are always changing. But overall, if you're looking for a really fast, powerful device that's going to be able to take care of your basic activities, plus shooting some great photos and videos, and doing more demanding things like photo and video editing and gaming, then either of these phones is going to be a great option. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.